Today, as American citizens, it doesn't really cross any of our minds how much goes into the process and how many resources we actually use when we bite into a cheeseburger for dinner time or cut a piece of steak off for lunch. We don't really think about how much actually goes into getting that food from the farm to our table for dinner, and that's the process I'm going to talk about: factory farming livestock. The process of factory farming livestock, there's actually a lot that goes into it, from raising the livestock at the farm, from slaughtering that animal and getting it prepared to get packaged and delivered to the grocery store for us to get to eat. And it's a never-ending process that it uses a lot of resources, and it's never-ending. Um, the initial part of raising livestock, it all starts at the farm. And in order to have a farm, the first step is having land for a farm. And having enough land for farm to raise livestock, you can never have enough land. It's a very destructive process trying to find and clear land to build a farm. And once you have a farm, it's very destructive, and you can't get too much out of that. Well, you get a lot, but in the end, you don't get that much out of that piece of land, and you have to constantly find new land and recycle the process. Um, what I'm talking about is that in the last 40 years alone, we have used a third of the world's farmable land already farming livestock. So in the past 40 years, that's already one third of the farmable land able to be used. We already destroyed it. Once you get the land, the farm starts obviously, and you start raising animals. A lot of farmers go off of monoculture farming, where uh, they produce one kind of crop, or in this case, livestock. They'll have one kind of animal at that farm. And for instance, a cow farm, instead of having chicken, pigs, and cows everywhere, you'll just see 1,000 cows in the line. Or a pig farm, they just focus on pigs. And the reason being is it's easier for them to worry about one kind of animal, and it helps them limit the money it costs. And like, just okay, we have cows, we only need this kind of food, we only have to do this for them. Or versus having chicken, okay, we need chicken feed, pig feed. So a lot of farmers use one animal, which it's good for them, but it's very harsh on the environment. It's very destructive. Um, so once you start raising the animals, a farm animal's life is pretty much just standing and eating. So let's go with a cow farm, for example. They have up to 1,000 to 2,000 cows per livestock farm for cows, and you'll just see a row of cows, and they just stand there, and they have an electric feeder in front of them, and they stand there and eat. That's their life. They don't get to run around. They don't have any freedom. It's they're there to fatten up for us to eat. And farmers use an electric feed system. They use silos that store all the grain. And farmers, where what they feed the animal, a lot of people don't realize it, how much resources goes into feeding an animal. They eat what we eat. They eat corn, wheat, vegetables, and all that. So when people are farming, so when they have farms for corn and stuff, they're not only having farms to grow corn for humans to eat. They have to have farms to grow corn for animals to eat as well. So um, it, it it's the process of farming animals. It's huge, because you have to farm land for the food to farm the animals. So it gets pretty crazy. Um, when feeding an animal, it's just to put in perspective, 1/4 pound burger, it uses 6.7 pounds of feed, 52.8 gallons of water, and 74.5 square feet of land to grow the crops to feed that animal. So that's just for 1/4 pound burger. And imagine how many burgers are in a cow. So that cow alone needs that much grain and water and all that per year in order to grow up for us to eat. So that it's a lot of resources that are used in this farming for livestock. It's a huge resource consumer. Um, so they use these electric feed systems anyway, that they obviously, it'd be hard to feed 1,000 cows, 2,000 cows all day, 5-6 times a day, as much as they feed them. So they use an electric feed system where it's they hook them up to timers and it's scheduled, and the feed just shoots down the chute, and the cows or chickens or whatever get to eat. Um, Animal waste, they they have tracks behind them, and the animal waste just falls in the pipeline system, mixes with water, and it's either stored underneath the facility in a storage container, like big storage containers, or the most common thing, it's pumped out into lakes, and they just store all the animal waste in a giant lake mixed with water. So that is also very destructive, and that's one of the things I was saying. That's why farms have to keep rebuilding and finding new plots of land, and the process has to keep starting over again. But growing, raising the animals, they so like I said, they're at the farm all day and they eat. That's their life. They're there to eat, and it's like I keep saying, it just uses a lot of resources. After animals are grown and well and ready to be move on to the next step, they are sent to the slaughterhouses where the animals actually live their last moments of their life. At the slaughterhouses, they have to first, from the farm, they load all the animals up onto a truck, and they have to drive to a buyer first. Now, a lot of buyers already are linked up with farms, and they have their animals that they buy all the time regularly, but other times animals go to an auction first, where everybody gets together and they bid on the animals, and the highest bidder gets those animals, and they tag them and brand them, whoever won, and then they load them back up onto the trucks again and to the slaughterhouse, whoever bought them, whoever won the bid, or whoever bought them. And this is where the inhumane parts get involved with animal growing and raising for crops. The way animals are dispatched are cows are they go down a single line, and an electric bolt gun is supposed to shoot a bolt into their head and dispatch them. A lot of the time, since factory farming and the slaughterhouse process of it, they're very rushed, and slaughterhouses get paid per animal killed, and it's a very strict schedule, and they have quotas of meat. So a lot of times, all the cows don't get hit right in the head and die instantly, which means they have to dispatch the animals other ways, and that's where you start seeing those videos on the internet of them torturing animals and slitting their necks and all that crazy stuff. That's not what's supposed to happen, but unfortunately, it does happen in this process, and more unfortunately, more in I'd like to say. And another example is pigs. They're supposed to go down a line just like cows and get shot in the head with a bolt and be dispatched instantly, but a lot of times the gun misses and the pig just gets injured, and the next step is moving to a scalding tank where hot water softens the skin and burns all the hair off of them. And they're supposed to be dead at this point, but a lot of times animals are still alive, and it's not that watched, it's not that regulated, and the workers there, they really don't say anything about it because they could lose their jobs. It happens all the time, so they just throw the animal abuse under the bus and act like they didn't see it because their jobs are at stake. And yeah, they have a lot of inhumane practices when slaughtering animals and dispatching them. So after animals are raised and grown, and then they go to the slaughterhouses, whoever bought them, and after they are dispatched humanely or inhumanely, the next step is going to a packaging facility where packaging facilities, they buy the meat from the slaughterhouses, and here meat is inspected. It's mandatory that meat must be inspected for consumer safety reasons, and it's voluntary that meat is graded. By graded, I mean poor, prime, and things like that. So a lot of packaging facilities, they hire people to come grade their meat, and so they'll be packaging the meat here at these facilities and getting ready to ship them to buyers. And depending on the grades of meat, say poor quality meat, if they grade the meat poor, that meat will then sometimes be sent to another facility, like a sausage facility, where it will be mixed in with other kinds of meat and turn into things like bologna, sausages, and Spam, and things like that. If it's not poor quality meat, where you have your prime cuts of meat, that's the meat that gets packaged, and that's when you see in the grocery store your chicken breast or your steaks and your burger patties. I'm talking about the poor quality meat. That's all the excess meat trimming through the process that gets sent to other facilities to turn into other food products. But yeah, once the food is graded and inspected at these facilities, they're then the next step is off to the grocery stores, and that's where the meat will stay until you buy it. Um, so the process of getting meat from the farm table is an extensive, or from the farm to the table is an extensive one. It involves a lot of resources that a lot of people don't normally think about when they bite into a hamburger. Um, when we bite into a meat, we're eating all that stuff that cow ate, all that grain and all that water that we had to grow at another farm for them in the process, and we don't think about it that much. But we the process starts with raising the animals at the farm, then it goes to the slaughterhouse where the animals are dispatched, and then to packaging facilities where the meat is packaged and sent either poor quality meat to another factory and made into other foods, or sent straight to the grocery store and ready for us to buy. Um, Once we buy the food at the grocery store, all that process, that long process pays off because we now have a hamburger to put on our bun for dinner or a steak to throw on the grill for lunch. That's factory farming. Thank you.